What if you had a global perspective on the concept of legacy? Welcome this morning to the Design Your Legacy podcast. My name is Angelina Carleton, and I'm the founder of Legacy Planning. This lovely morning, I have the pleasure to introduce you to Pushpanjali Oliver Lund. She's well qualified and experienced in the corporate law domain, an alumnus of the Government Law College in Mumbai, India, and has a master's specialization in intellectual property rights, as well as industry experience significant in the segments of the corporate, banking, and finance sectors, as well as manufacturing and consumer goods, private clients, estate planning, and fiduciary services. She's the founder and managing director of Sagevisor for the Legacy Planning Solutions, offering estate and succession planning, hand-holding comprehensive succession and asset protection structures for seamless intergenerational wealth transfers with clienteles across the family business houses, promoter companies, entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals, non-resident Indians, guardianship and special needs for the children's, and so forth. Welcome, Pushpanjali.
Hi, Angelina. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for joining. I know that you're working off of a hotspot today, so we're going to work with the communications, and we're going to just hone in on what you have to share. And I'm so pleased that you are here. So where would you like to start this morning? Would it be in the distinction between estate planning, legacy planning? Where would you like to start?
Yeah, happy to address that. I think that's the basic question, which I think everyone does have a lot of times, so I think let's start with that.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the difference between estate and succession planning, the concepts of estate and succession planning are very often interchangeably used. So estate planning essentially refers to an individual's estate and may sometimes also extend to his business interests, which are very closely held. But succession planning, on the other hand, essentially refers to a business succession. So when you're planning for continuity, when you're planning for your next in line successor, when you're planning for handing down the business baton, that's what succession planning is all about.
Very nice. And so when you think about legacy planning, what comes up regarding what you've experienced with the clients that you've worked with?
Okay, so basically, if you're talking about my experiences when we have meetings, when we basically you take away from a good conversation, it's always very satisfying. It's always very encouraging, to know that you can make a difference, to help out someone, protect and preserve, what really matters to them, which is way beyond tangible value.
Yes, and so from where you sit in your perspective in this global forum today, what are some of the main roadblocks that you see?
Yeah, I think the main roadblocks, if you talk about whether it's a national, whether it's an international forum, it's definitely one is lack of awareness, and the other one is applicability. Is legacy planning really for me? These are, two major roadblocks that I think all of us as legacy planners come across. With regard to lack of awareness, when we're talking about, it's like we know a lot. Legacy planning is a very nascent concept as yet. We've got a long road to go.
So how have you helped your clients overcome the lack of awareness that they might feel or have, as well as just thinking that legacy planning might not be for them?
Right. Yeah, so basically, as we all know, globally, legacy planning is a very nascent concept, and in some countries more than the others. So what we've tried to do is through our talks, through forums, with clients, with employees of corporate houses, with media houses, we've tried to bring about awareness. In fact, on this note, I would also like to add that Design Your Legacy and you, Angelina, to merge the practices and perspectives of legal legacy planners globally, and bring about contemporary legacy planning awareness. So I think that's really great.
How does a high net worth individual approach the creation of their legacy these days?
Yeah, so if a high net worth individual would approach it like anyone else, when we're talking about business houses, we're talking about a parent, we're talking about an entrepreneur. All of these we could fall into the category of a high net worth individual. But what differs them is the kind of roles they play as each of these. And, the requirements of what we've understood to date all fall upon common ground, where all of them require protection and preservation of their assets for the kind of roles that they see through. So, so I think, the process for a high net worth individual or any of these will be definitely the same. While we definitely, as the old adage goes, that no one size fits all. So each of them have their own requirements, but, on common ground, it's always protection and preservation of assets to follow through these goals.
Are you seeing more young entrepreneurs having exit plans of selling a business and now requiring legacy planning services for the first time?
Yes, we see a lot of traction with young entrepreneurs today. There are a lot of new wealth creators and a lot of new wealth earners. So we definitely see new goals there.
Lovely. And are there any best practices that you've come across, whether it's with family constitutions or anything, whether it's the format or the structure, or what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So we basically, definitely, in fact, we're always evolving and we're always, improvising our structures to meet various needs with regard to clients and with regard to, the changes in laws and things like that. But definitely, one of the best practices which we feel are one of the most flexible structures have been trusts, combining them with a lot of customary practices to meet a lot of varied requirements of clients. It has been something which we've seen has worked pretty well, considering varied geographies, considering various legacy planning goals, considering various class of assets. So I think maybe for right now, trust seem to be quite the seller.
Yes. And what about charitable and philanthropic projects? What are you seeing there?
So definitely, like I said, trust form a very flexible part of the entire legacy planning process. And a lot of people create trust essentially for philanthropic activities. So, or their to meet their philanthropic meanderings. So this has been this is not now. This has been the years to come. So definitely that segment continues to do so, and trust form very easy and major vehicle to help them carry out their philanthropic goals.
Lovely. Are there any other best practices that are good to cover in this conversation today?
I think there are a lot of new practices coming about, because we've got a lot of wealth as a term basically holds a very variant definition today. We have whether it's digitally held, whether you're talking about art, whether we're talking about a couple of other things which are in flow today. So it's being having wealth having a varied definition. Practices have to be varied as well. So we keep playing around. We keep trying to see what fits in best. We figure out at that point in time when we're doing it, there are a lot of new laws coming into play, and every country has its own laws. We've seen wills have been a customary practice all along. Legacy planning is only restricted to wills, and that's not really the case. We see a lot of new vehicles coming to the market today, and through that, it depends on how you apply the requirements, the goals, and the laws, and finally the best practices to that. You get a good legacy planning product.
Yes. Well, given the wealth transfer that's happening these days, how do you make a custodian out of the next generation, whether that young individual is from generation Z, Y, or X?
Well, that's a very good question, because it's very apt and it's a very in for the youngsters today. So basically, this question and this answer to this dates back to I don't know if you've heard about the Vanderbilt test. So basically, the Vanderbilt, so most face the challenge of the Vanderbilt test.
The Vanderbilt, yes.
The Vanderbilt family, as globally, these were very powerful and wealthy business houses in the US at one point in time, and they did see their family legacy dwindle by the third generation. So I think our learning from there is what we do understand is that the next gen has to be made a custodian rather than being a beneficiary. If they're made a custodian, they're going to be involved with decision making. They're going to be involved with legacy goals. They're going to be involved with the processes every step of the way.
Wonderful, wonderful. And tell me for a moment, when it comes to women, I think women are starting to step up more, whether it's the daughters or just the
Absolutely.
expectations in society are allowing women to have more of a voice in business. What are your thoughts about what you see when it comes to women in legacies?
Yeah, it makes me very proud. It makes me, when I look at you, when I look at a lot of the other legacy planners, and it's not just in legacy planning, it's the way what women do today, I think is exceptional. And it makes me very proud, to see where we've reached, and and where we're still growing and going to. And I think a lot of this, and where we, with regard to legacy planning, women in legacy planning, we're looking at a lot of women, today are not just creating their own, but also protecting and preserving their own through legacy planning. And this is great to see because what we notice today is they're getting a lot of familial support, which takes them a long way, to create that balance. If I talk about myself on a personal front, so my husband is with the financial industry. My daughter is all of 11. But the kind of support and encouragement that I receive from them with regard to my work is amazing. And that what helps me create that absolute balance. And in fact, my daughter, who's all of 11, hearing me talk about legacy day in, day out, somewhere she's come to understand the concept pretty much, or she's begun to understand the concept and appreciate the value of what it holds. So, yeah, I'm happy.
I'm loving the seeds you're planting.
Yeah, hope so. They bear fruit soon.
And I'm loving the idea that more family members are offering the support to the women to have their voices be heard.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without them. It definitely is very, very important to have all the support you can, because that's when you can absolutely create a balance.
So tell me about if the idea of a legacy was spoken about growing up, or what made you interested in this subject?
Yeah, so I believe, see, legacy when we were growing up was essentially, values which were instilled in us by our parents. In fact, my parents, were very, very instrumental even in getting us into the right direction with regard to our career calling, and associated us and introduced us to the legal as well as the administrative services very early on. And thereon, I got into working in the legal space with the FMCG industry, the financial industry, the fiduciary industry. But still, legacy planning stays close to my heart. And when I did get this chance to start off Sagevisor, that's all I could think of. So yeah, it definitely, in fact, even at work, there's never a boring moment. And it's never mundane, because we've got so many varied clients with different requirements, different geographies, different domiciles, different asset classes. There's always a new structure and there's always something to do. Lots and lots of something to do. So yeah, I think these elements, keep it a lot of fun and keep us going.
Yes. So your parents were a great influence. And out of curiosity, what would you like your legacy to be?
Like I always say, I think the one legacy motto that I go by is procreate your legacy. When I say procreate your legacy, what I mean is protect what is by succession yours and create a legacy that you wish to leave behind.
Yes. And out of curiosity, where does the name Sagevisor come from for your business?
Yes. So I have been asked this question by many. So Sagevisor essentially is Sage is a very learned person, and the visor just comes from advisor. So when we say Sagevisor, it was basically the clubbing of a learned advisor, and that's where we essentially have Sagevisor from.
Yes, it's lovely. And your name also means something associated with flowers.
Yes, Pushpanjali essentially means in our Indian mythology, Pushpanjali essentially means the offering of flowers.
Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, what values does your legacy get to honor? Definitely, I hear values around education.
Yes. So no, I think it's values all across. It's basically, I think at the end of the day, it's being a better human being. I think if that's something we can strive to give our next gen as legacy, and get everybody and teach them to be better human beings, I think we've made it.
Very nice. Very nice. So I know that you have a birthday coming up. How have you looked at the Yes, yes, yes. So happy birthday in a day or so. Um,
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes. A couple of days. It's a
how
milestone.
Yes, yes. How have you looked at the concept of legacy differently, let's say from your 20s decade to your 30s decade and now approaching the 40s decade?
Yeah, I think it's been extremely different. While I would definitely say that it's never too early to legacy plan, but when you look at your 20s, you're essentially looking at your essentially there are dreams and there are goals. When you're looking at your 30s, some of them have been achieved. When you're looking at your 40s, you have materialized a lot personally and professionally. So I think by the time you're 40, you have a lot of clarity of thought to know where the weight lies and what you should be planning, how you should be planning, what are the areas you should be taking care of. So if you haven't already planned before you're 40, it couldn't be a better time to do it.
Yes, yes. Do you think you're more serious and committed now on this subject or just wiser given what you've experienced in life?
If you're talking about legacy planning per se, I think, as I told you, it was always close to my heart. It was just a moment where I had to get there and do it. And now with the legacy planners like yourself and a lot of the others who we meet globally in India, it's just so much of fun, as well as like I always like to put across, like legacy planning is not a very serious concept. Yes, the objectives are serious, the goals are serious, and I think the outcome should be serious. But the way we go about it, and the kind of learnings from it, the applicability on an everyday basis. The kind of evolving that I'm seeing in this space is so much of fun that I'm just happy to be here.
Yes. So what are you seeing that's evolving? Are people having more conversations finally about this?
Yes, people are very open. I think people are getting better. People are, more open to at least hearing you out. People are open to hearing the concept. People are more open to understanding that yes, it could apply to me. And people are more like we are more connected globally now. So we are following. We are probably you're using a lot of good practices across the globe. From different countries, we're adopting those practices. We are exchanging perspectives. So I think that really does help. Because somebody may be more advanced in one area of legacy planning, somebody may be in the other. So when you merge a couple of them, as I said, you get a very good legacy planning product.
Yes. Are there any good books you've read that you would want to share or any inspiring stories as we draw to a close?
Yeah, books would be many, whether they are law related, whether they're experience related, stories to share. Um there are a lot of personal stories, but if I have to just have a takeaway, been some of the clients that we've had, something which has been very close to my heart have been creating trust for special needs kids, and that is very very close to my heart, because I feel that is very very imperative for special needs kids to have somebody look out for them when their parents are no longer around or their guardians are no longer around, and they are not to be able to do something for such in such situations does give me a lot of pleasure and a lot of happiness and a lot of satisfaction, and then I feel okay, we're going the right way. So this is one segment, yes, which I feel is very very important, even socially, for people to understand, bring a lot of awareness around it, working with the medical fraternity to make a lot of parents aware of the space and doing the best we can.
That's lovely. Thank you for your compassion and empathy to guide individuals that could be overlooked and need the framework the most and the care the most. Yes. Any final thoughts as we draw to the close of our conversation?
No, I think looking forward to many more podcasts with you, and yes, and on very legacy planning concepts. And in fact, I would definitely like to say a big thank you for actually honoring this milestone of mine, which is going to be my 40th birthday. And it couldn't be better talking about legacy planning on my birthday as well, being a milestone. Yeah. So So I'm happy and looking forward, to many, many more.
Yes. Well, I'm going to call this the birthday edition.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. I totally love that.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the gratitude that I know this conversation has been kind of a year in the making, and it's
Yes.
coordinating schedules. And I found the exchange of our ideas so valuable because as you are in another time zone, it's still the connection of the human experience. And so whether someone is creating a legacy in the Pacific Standard,
Morning here, and it's finally happening.
yes, yes, yes. And so whether someone's creating a legacy in the Pacific Standard Time Zone or in India, the connection and the exchange of the thought leadership, the ideas, I think is meaningful because I think today with technology, the boundaries collapse a little bit and we can connect and understand. And I think one of the things that you had appreciated is looking at legacy from many different vantage points. That so it's not just so strict and dry, and rather it's the invitation.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be correct. And so I echo again that I respect how much you as a woman in India are also embracing this subject and leading the way as a voice at the table, because I think when it comes to personal agency or ownership of legacy, it's important to not just be in the shadows or to count our voices out.
Absolutely. Yes. Right back at you.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm just going to read the closing paragraph and then I will call it a wrap. Okay, so in closing, I'm Angelina Carleton, the hostess of the Design Your Legacy podcast, as well as the founder to Legacy Planning, a boutique coaching and advisory firm based out of Beverly Hills, California, USA, but international in those I coach. I hope to dive deep into subjects that can help a person define, develop, and execute their legacy and continue to scour the landscape for those who can be great resources to every dimension of your legacy. For many listeners and viewers, there can never be enough education and inspiration in the moat around your castle. Whether you find yourself with new wealth or generational wealth, may the content of this channel be an anchor in any storms ahead. We do our best to provide original content for your emotional and intellectual curiosity. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Ms. Lund, for being a guest speaker this lovely morning.
Thank you so much, Angelina. It's been a complete pleasure. Thank you.